Death Star approaching. Estimated time to fire range.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Welcome, listeners, to episode 288 of the Skyhoppers podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ben, and I am joined by my lovely co-hosts, Cole and Dakota, who seems to have been replaced by a honestly disgustingly cute Baby Yoda sticker. It's a little much.
He used to live on a cake.
Oh, so it's not a sticker; it's one of those plastic.
Yes.
Cole's been replaced by. Is that Fixer?
Indeed, it is Fixer.
Okay, because Fixer's the one I always forget.
He's definitely the one with like the least, bombastic personality and such.
Which, yeah, it's like I don't want to forget him. But you have Sev, the psychopath. You have Boss, who's your player character, and then Scorch is Carthonassi. Everyone else is just
Fixer.
Yeah,
the dude.
The guy. And if I'm being honest, in most games, most anything, the kind of the mechanical, smart, techie guy is always my least favorite. Like in Bad Batch, tech is 100% my least favorite.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. That archetype. Anyway.
Shame.
We're
Agreed.
not here to badmouth members of Delta Squad. Instead,
Or
we
the
are
Bad
here.
Batch. Which apparently starts in January. Is that true? I saw that somewhere, and I did not realize we were that close.
Yeah, I'll double check the date real quick.
No,
I saw
Austin.
January,
January
early
4th or something.
January, yeah.
We've got some patrons hanging out with our chat in our chat today. Hello, patrons. Austin says not Crosshair. No, Crosshair is maybe my favorite member. Crosshair is my favorite
I wouldn't
member
go
of the Bad
that
Batch.
far, but he's definitely one of the most interesting of them.
Yeah, for sure. Also, have you seen how long his gun is? Like, I love
It is very long.
He does have
that
a
is
long
something that
gun.
Ben is very into.
Yeah.
If this is your first episode of the podcast, welcome.
Yep, January 4th. Bad Batch Season 2.
Wow.
Nice.
What?
Can't wait. I'm gonna put that in my calendar.
That's so
right now.
soon.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was
Barely
supposed to come
over
out in like August, so.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Now,
So,
do we know?
not as soon as it could have been.
Do we know it was supposed to come out in August, or was it a rumor that it was supposed to come out in August? I can't remember.
Well, I think it was always those like leaked dates
Sure.
from like Disney Plus in other countries, I think.
Mm.
But I don't think it was ever like announced. But especially at Celebration, like the way they had a trailer for it and they put the trailer online, same as Andor, rather than just the
Right.
exclusive trailer, made it seem like it was sooner than it was ended up being. But whatever.
Yeah, it is pretty wild that that show came out a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't because it doesn't feel that old. But
That's not.
that's kind of my experience with this new stuff. It doesn't feel old until it very suddenly does, and it's like, oh no, this has been around for a long time.
Don't put Morbius energy on Bad Batch.
How is that?
That's not.
I don't get it.
Mogo,
How is it the Morbius of Star Wars?
I don't care if you pay for this one. Don't think I won't time you out of this chat too, if you're misbehaving. Anyway,
Okay, that's fair. Because the release date kept getting pushed.
yes, okay.
Okay, I'll give you that one. In any
Well,
other way, I will not give it to
That's
you.
fair.
Well, that's interesting because I mean, like, we saw that it has to just be kind of overlap, right? And that has to because like we saw that they
has to be.
they saw that we saw they were conscious of that with Andor. Like they did pay attention to the fact that all of that stuff was coming out at once, so they're like, we're gonna kick this back a month. Which
So it is weird that if all these dates that we're going off of right now are true, We have Bad Batch in January, and then Mando, I think, is supposed to be in February.
February.
Though I think we still don't have like
Really?
an official date, because I think they said February at Celebration, but then the trailer they released to the public like a month later or whatever it was didn't have a date on it.
I did not realize we were that close to that either. That is very exciting.
But
Yeah.
but I think there's gonna be overlap no matter what, because Bad Batch is 16 episodes, so it's gonna run like nearly like a third of the year or something.
They can't keep getting away with it. They can't keep getting away with not overlapping Star Wars things.
No, we've got Willow starting up next week, so we have a Lucasfilm property on Disney Plus.
I saw, maybe it was like on the Thanksgiving parade or something that was on TV. I think I saw a trailer for Willow, and I'd kind of forgotten about it because it's not something that I have any attachment to at all.
I've never seen it.
And I'm just
I'm gonna watch it before I watch the show.
And I'm just like, should I give that a shot? I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm gonna.
It's Warwick Davis. I mean,
Right. So it's like,
I feel like I've got to give it at least a chance.
yeah.
And the original one's Val Kilmer too, I believe, right?
Yes. Yeah, he's in that one. Just, it does feel like kind of an integral part of like Lucasfilm DNA. And not that I ever would call myself a scholar of Lucasfilm, but I am interested. So it does seem
I think
wrong.
you could call yourself a scholar of it. I think any of us that are here today
Good call.
could call us that.
Yeah.
We have our own libraries of Lucasfilm stuff.
Well, it's
including reference materials. So
I do
fiction,
think
nonfiction. We have a little bit of everything.
Yep.
As I've gotten older, I find that's one thing that I'm actually more interested in is the kind of production side of things. Like, I think even 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that Light and Magic was nearly as good as I think it is now. And I don't know if maybe that's just because, a scholar of home releases for sure. I
got my Andor copy on the way.
I need to get it. Oh, I need to get it. There was literally those were live the day the episode aired, right? Like you could get those.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the guy that on Etsy that I linked to, like that guy is on top of it. Like when a show finishes, usually within hours, he's got a listing up for it.
Well, I imagine that he's just got all the files. He's got everything set up.
I think that any big show that's coming out, he gets the art and stuff ready in advance, and just as soon as he knows it's all available and he can get it, he's like, all right, go up for sale. I've got my loyal customers that'll buy it.
He's got it. It's sold out.
Yeah, well, that guy, he does like on-demand sales basically. So if you just message him what you want, he'll put it up for you.
Okay.
But he can't leave them listed all the time because he'll get flagged.
Okay. So I'm certainly not going to blow up
that
anybody's
makes sense.
spot. It's out there if you want to find it. That's all I'm going to say. But interesting. Yeah, because I
and he used the art I wanted to.
I know.
Oh,
I can see
yes.
that right now. He's used the Andor as
he didn't use the art with like actually the like Bantam style like text on it and everything.
Yeah.
But I'll take it. It's great.
no. Yeah, for those who don't know, the art that was used on this unofficial season 1 is what I don't remember who. Someone just like joked about it on Twitter, and then an artist mocked it up, did it. It's like
well, I think the art itself, I think was like from a UK, some UK venue, I think, and somebody commented on it, it's like, oh, this looks like an old Bantam, art book cover, and then someone did a mock-up of it with the text and everything, and it looks so perfect. It's like Star Wars Andor by Tony Gilroy.
It's really good. So I need to reach out about that, I think, because obviously,
and I think he'll do even deals for you. Like if you want multiple things, he'll give you a break on the price a little bit. So if you want,
What a guy!
I mean, he's probably making a killing off of it because a Blu-ray disc and some paper in a case is nothing. And if he's already got the files made up, it's just burn the discs and send it out,
and then it's done. Gotta figure out what's going on with my camera. Choppy. Anyway, not important, because I think a vast majority of people listen to this podcast and the video is not that important to them. But lost my train of thought. Oh, no, it's gone. Anyway, not important. What is important is that last week I finally picked up all of my comics from the shop. I went and did it when I said I was going to do it.
Proud of you.
And I'm getting caught up. I'm doing it. I think I have one issue of Han Solo and Chewbacca left. I'm caught up on Dr. Aphra. But
Ooh.
imagine my chagrin, maybe it's the word, when I remembered, oh, right, Crimson Reign is a thing. So now I have to do the War of the Bounty Hunters thing again, where I have to look at, like, okay, what is the reading order for these?
Yes.
What is the... And I'm an invested fan, right? I'm an enfranchised fan of the franchise. I lapsed on comics for a couple months, and now I'm completely lost.
Yeah, it's easy if you're reading them as they come out, but yep, I'm in the same boat.
Restarting my camera and seeing if that helps.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I just disappeared suddenly. Okay, seems like it did. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of a bummer because I want them to have I want them to have these big sweeping crossover things, but at the same time, it's like, God, it's one thing to have to look up what order a book series goes in. It's another thing entirely to look up what order a comic goes in because it takes you never more than 7 minutes to read it. So you're doing that over and over again, unless you just find a good list, which I'm sure is out there. But anyway, that's my grumpy Star Wars but not actual comic fan rant for the week over with. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we lost Dakota. Is Dakota there?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
Oh no. Seems like he's frozen.
Okay. Well, I don't... Anyway, technical difficulties abound. I think the episode is still trucking along, though, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to try to pretend it doesn't bother me. Cole, anything going on with you other than the obvious Andor-shaped elephant in the room?
I'm still working on... Which book is it? The Rising Storm? I've read a few more
Rising
chapters
Storm?
of that.
Yeah.
But, again, don't have, any huge thoughts on it because I haven't read that much.
Right.
But I'm keeping on it. A few chapters. So, it hasn't... Oh, and Dakota dropped from the call.
Oh.
And...
Maybe
he's back.
I don't know. Well, and Rising Storm is one of those things that I think it's gonna. It starts off slow, but once you get into it, it's like okay.
Yeah, it hasn't kicked off yet.
Once it
So
does,
you said it's one giant action sequence at some point. So,
and calling it one giant action sequence is a little disingenuous because there are breaks and it kind of there's a flow to it, but it is one of those things that's kind of all set in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of,
Yes, I don't know what happened,
Okay, you're back.
but I am back.
okay. I saw in the EU subreddit the other day. This is unrelated. I saw in the EU subreddit someone asked about the Clone Wars Gambit novels from Legends, which I don't own, have never read, and honestly,
I own them but haven't read them.
Yeah, me too.
I saw some people being like, oh, they're fine, whatever. And then one person was just like, absolute trash, completely terrible. The whole thing takes place, the whole story takes place in one place. No reason for it to be spread across 2 books. And I was just like, I started thinking, I'm like, yeah, I find that I actually do like things. I think that person was probably a little more angry than they needed to be. But I also think that I am much less likely to really resonate with the Star Wars thing if it all takes place in the same place. With the exception of Kenobi, right? Kenobi is a notable
I was about to say
exception.
to me that's the prime example. Is he never leaves the planet. We
Doesn't
never
ever leave
spend
the
any time in space at all.
Well, see, now to me I'm uniquely suited to love that this character is spending this much time on this planet, right? That's the Tatooine is the exception. But I mean, do you feel the same way that it's Cole, it sounds like you do, where it's if things are Not
I mean, not inherently, because like the MedStar books, both those basically take place on Drongar.
and
Mhm,
Shatterpoint.
mhm, mhm.
Basically, and Shatterpoint is basically
Harun
all on
Call.
Haroon Call. So I mean, it's one of those things. I feel like it's very much case by case basis. I'd say in general, I prefer my Star Wars to be more like planet hopping. You know, spend some time in space and stuff. But it's not a hard and fast rule.
Sure. I mean, even something like Splinter of the Mind's Eye has
Mhm.
like I feel like kind of feels differently because there are different settings, even just on Minban. It's like, okay, we're in the mining
Mhm.
town, we're in the mining settlement, then we go to the underground lake.
We're in the
then
creepy
jungle.
temple.
Yeah, creepy temple. Like they're, Moga says, but most of the Kenobi show was different planets. That is true. That is true.
Whereas the Boba Fett show was all on Tatooine.
Again, take one of my favorite characters, throw him on Tatooine.
Strange choices.
I'm probably gonna
were
like
made.
it. That is, the more I think about Boba Fett, the more I think that a lot of people's issues with that show is that they called him a crime lord. If he had just been anything, if he had called himself something else, I feel like people would have had less of a problem.
Since he didn't do much crime.
He didn't do any crime. He's just trying to protect people. It's like, that's not what a crime lord does.
Like, I mean, he took the spot of a crime lord, but that's not really what he was trying to be.
Right.
He was just trying to be like a good leader for
Right.
these people.
Um,
You know, it's like I feel like there's half of a great story in Boba Fett, and then they get sidetracked and finishes, and is like, "We did it," and I'm like, wait, I feel like you lost the plot at some point.
there were basically maybe 2 episodes or so that were missing. If you'd had, if the show
Yeah,
had 2
it's
more
weird.
episodes,
There's like, it feels like there's like 2 episodes missing of this arc, and I don't know where they went. It's very strange.
good God, you know what? I just have a
I like
sinking,
the show though.
yeah, I just have a sinking
It's a
feeling
great
that
show.
if they do it again,
Like,
if they do,
I'll still contend that episode 2 of the Book of Boba Fett is one of the best episodes of Star Wars TV.
it's so
I
good.
think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic.
so good. It's so good. And then it just that all kind of went away.
Mm.
But don't need to relitigate that. I think we spent more than enough time. One of the Book of Boba Fett.
It gets brought up again and again because all I see is on Reddit. It's like oh, Andor so much better than Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett. They were both trash.
I'm just like, what?
It's like I get if Book of Boba Fett, especially if it wasn't what you expected or wanted it to be, I get it. And Kenobi, you know, I've got problems with Kenobi as well, but you know, whatever.
It didn't. Kenobi did not become Star Wars super friends like Austin says Book of Boba Fett did. You know, like Kenobi. At least Kenobi kind of like lived or died on its own merits, whereas
like a lot of Kenobi's problems were more like technical things in some ways.
yeah, exactly. It's like it's not a diverting story kind of problem. So yeah, I don't know, but Andor, I can unequivocally say the first season of Andor is the best Star Wars TV we've gotten. I can understand it not being everyone's thing, especially because this show, I think, this week's episode, the finale, to me illustrated more than almost anything else that the show does not care about your nostalgia. It is not a feel-good show. It is not here to be a feel-good show. But is there anything else we need to talk about before we get into that? Because I'm like,
I don't think so. I don't think there's any news
Yeah.
or anything to worry about. So I think we can just get into it.
okay. My initial thought is this episode started out pretty slow, and I'm like, okay, we're getting there, and then all of a sudden it just popped, and it's like, this is the most intense the show has ever been.
The marching band starts and then
Yep.
Yeah.
and it's
As soon as the music starts playing,
Yeah.
it's like I was mesmerized.
or I guess like
Through the whole
the
sequence.
bell even
bell.
before the marching
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say I count that as part of the music. Honestly, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like as soon
Totally.
as our time grappler boy goes up there and starts hitting that bell,
Yeah.
and it's like,
That's the drum pit.
mhm. And he's like in time, like getting the marching
Yeah.
band, like, yep, this is what we do. And my gosh, did it
Yeah.
deliver so hard.
it was just it was just like there were a few triumphant moments, like not to just to jump around a little. Obviously, it was nice when Cassian was like, "Kill me, do it right now, or take me in." Like that was great. That was great.
It's literally the final moment of the show. It's like, kill me or take me in.
It's perfect.
And then Luthen's grin.
Yeah, it's a grin.
So satisfying.
Well,
like looks down at the Briar pistols, like, yeah.
So it makes me wonder. It's like, did Luthen? Do we think the whole time he was just all in on killing Cassian? Then
he was, yeah,
too. Yeah,
the whole time he was just all in on it.
I think up until this episode, you could have said that maybe we were not sure, but he walks up to Vel and is like, tells him, is like, so okay, we know when the Empire catches him, we'll kill him before they can interrogate him. Yeah. So it definitely seems like that's what he intended to do. Like that was definitely his part of the plan.
Which is reasonable because he didn't have any idea about what Cassian went through.
Yeah. As far as he knows, Cassian loped off with the money.
Yeah.
And is just out there doing whatever. He has no idea about the prison stuff. Yes. He doesn't know anything.
And it's been
so as far as he's concerned, Cassian's just a loose end that, noped out and knows too much about him.
Yeah.
And then I imagine as soon as the show cuts away and Cassian tells him what he's been up to, he's gonna be like, "Oh my god,
yeah,
what have you done? You liberated an entire prison without us."
Well, and I think Marva's speech at the end was incredibly moving, and I think Luthen was probably saw like, "Oh, this is what he comes from."
Yes,
like that.
I think that changed his mind a little bit.
Exactly,
too.
It's like you can't. You can't come from someone who feels that way and not have some of that instilled in you. And then, obviously all this stuff goes up and Cassian is wanting to join up. I think it's probably not too much of a question for Luthen. He's like, absolutely, come on, join in. Let's do it.
Well, he wanted Cassian to be a rebel like that. I mean, that's why he recruited him. He's like, you've got the skills and everything. And he's hoping that, putting him in the position of, being part of this rebel heist, that, the whole Aldani mission will, bring him into the fold. And when it doesn't, it's like, all right, well, he's a loose end, gotta kill him.
Gotta kill him.
But he wanted him to be part of the rebellion. That's what he wanted to begin with. And so it's so funny, the symmetry of this episode to episode 3. Like it mirrors it in a lot of ways where, that episode ended with Cassian on Luthen's ship flying away because he had to, and then this episode ends with him on Luthen's ship because he chose to be. It's like, so we've come full circle. It's perfect. Like this finale was it landed all the stuff it needed to land.
It did
perfectly to me.
It did.
While still setting up season 2 is like, oh, here we go.
One thing I want to, well, first of all, Austin is floating this theory that Clea is Cassian's sister.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I don't know enough to say it's impossible. I think it'd be odd.
Well, to me, the reason it can't be is because is ethnicity. Cassian and his sister and that planet are explicitly like Central American.
That's true.
Like definitely like, Diego Luna is Mexican. Clea is very clearly, white British woman. It's like I've seen people say Dedra, people say Clea, people before Vel was revealed, I think people said Vel. Like everyone's like
Dedra?
They're his sister. Yeah, I know.
And
that's
bizarre.
Like to me it's like, oh, it doesn't make sense, guys. That's not the way the show does things.
It's not. Yeah. I think Star Wars has I think the ethnicity thing is less of a sure thing. However, I think it's a factor.
That's something they're very conscious of, I think.
Well, that's true. And I think the show being conscious is the bigger thing that I'm getting at. Is just that, like, what in this show would lead people to believe that that's how they're doing this? That they would do something that's so... I don't want to say far-fetched, because within Star Wars it's not far-fetched, but it does feel like... It feels like in this show, that is not what they are going for. They are not going for something that is that simple and clear-cut.
I do think the sister plot line will come back. It's one of those things that what I'm kind of expecting to happen with that is over the course of the next season with whatever missions they're doing, some stuff, whatever. I think they're going to stumble across like Cassian will stumble across information about what happened to Kanari,
Sure.
and it'll be like incidental. It'll be like he'll find out like what really went on there, maybe,
Yep.
and maybe the sister itself will never come back up. Like maybe Marvo's right, that was a fantasy he was chasing. That was in episode 7, I think. She's like, "Hey, stop looking for her. It's not.
Nope,
it's not worth
happening.
it." That really might be the end of it, honestly.
It could be.
But I kind of expect at least Kanari itself to come back.
Yes.
As a thread in like an early Imperial atrocity or something. But who knows?
Yep, and I talked to my brother about it on Thanksgiving too, and we felt the same way. That's like there was the show has been so intentional. There's been too much time spent on this sister thing for it to just completely drop off because Marva said it's a fantasy. Don't worry about it. Like that's just I just don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, I think the point of like he's looking for a sister, but the point of all that is just kind of showing that Cassian his entire life has been on the run, doing like he was pushed off his home planet, and then he's being pushed off Ferrix. He's always being, pushed by, whatever government, whatever's doing stuff to him. That was really the point of it. It wasn't really the sister. The sister was just like the impetus for that first event.
Yeah.
But, it's so hard to say.
It is, but I think it's really nice to see Cassian finally making a choice. Cassian has not made a choice through the entire show.
Yeah, he's been reacting. Like the only choice he made was, after Aldhani to run.
Yeah. Yes, and which is not
Well, he's made choices. They're always selfish choices.
right. Right. Now he's doing something else because, his mom, he finds out about his mom, and then she makes that speech, and it's just like, we know through Rogue One specifically, because I guess the show doesn't give us a lot of it, but some of it. We know that Cassian does have that good heart. It's just buried a little deeper, I think, than like Han Solo's, for example. Like Han is like looking for an excuse
because he's had this clearly incredibly traumatic life.
Yes.
Where
where like Han, it feels like is just looking for an excuse, telling everyone he's the bad guy, and he's just looking for the slightest opportunity to be the good guy. Cassian does not feel that way.
No.
But okay, Moga says that season 2 could have an arc where he's given the choice basically between the rebellion and a potential lead for his sister, which
but he chooses the rebellion instead.
Has to choose the rebellion.
Again, that's a good thing. It's like okay, that would give closure to him. Like he's like, okay, I've accepted, I've moved on in some way, and still furthering his current arc. That would make total sense.
It would.
Yeah. If she's not dead already, she would probably fare better to not meet back up with Cassian.
At this point,
we know where his storyline's going.
Yeah. Most of the people he knows don't survive.
Yes.
Oh man.
I will say though, given before we get back into like the actual like discussing the episode proper, I have a much better feeling about us seeing K2SO in season 2. Because seeing where the first season ends up, it's like, okay, well now he's joining the rebellion. He's going to be on a mission. He's going to meet K2, and it's going to completely steamroll that comic. But whatever, it's fine.
Well, I still have hope they're not going to. Honestly,
yeah,
I do too.
Maybe season 2 will start and he'll be there.
Well,
that would be cool too if he was just there suddenly.
Yeah, there's the way that Tony Gilroy. I've read a lot of interviews with Tony Gilroy.
He's given so many. He's given
so many interviews, and he's so insightful about talking about all that stuff, and he's like very open about it.
Yeah.
Like talking about even like stuff like, people ask him about like, hey, there was a theory going around about this thing. He's like, oh yeah, that's a really cool idea. That's not what we're doing, but that's a cool idea. And so he's been very fun about that kind of stuff. But he talked about very intentionally, they have like a storyboard thing with everyone's events laid out that we already know happen.
You're right.
So it seems to me that they're not gonna deliberately override anything. And he said specifically, the way the next season's structured, we have like an arc and then a time jump, an arc and a time jump, and they're playing with that negative space deliberately. I'm like, I feel like K2 is gonna just fall in one of those negative spaces. So maybe like halfway through the season, that episode the third arc, he'll be there, and it'll be like maybe their first mission together or something, and they'll be talking about he's like feeling him out still,
Right.
like not sure how he feels about him, but he's like, okay, well I guess we have to use you, something like that. So I have some faith they're not going to.
I do too. I do too,
comic.
and you're absolutely right. I have not been giving it enough credit. They have shown time and time again, through interviews, through the show itself.
I have
that-
so much more faith in them than I did with anyone else.
Yes, exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think this creative team. I apologize. I retract what I said. I think it's still a possibility, but I also think that it is.
It's still definitely a possibility. I mean, as far as like things to override go, this one-shot comic is pretty low tier.
It is.
But
But see, it's just like I don't know. Anyway, I do retract what I said. I think you are right.
But
Cole.
K2 absolutely will be in the season.
has to.
Mhm.
Has to. Everyone
Like,
loves
I
him.
think there was an interview where he said that K2 is like a responsibility of season 2. So,
Well, and-
he's like, we're building up to Rogue One. You have to do all the stuff that builds to Rogue One. That's just how it works.
Nathan in our chat is saying that I can't source this personally right in this second.
No,
Gilroy's-
no, he's right.
Yeah, in an interview Gilroy said in an interview that the last episode of the series is Cassian on Yavin getting on a ship to go to Kafrene.
Yeah, he said like in an interview, like they know the last shot of the season, the series basically. They know that he's going to be on a mission, going to Rings of Kafrene to meet with Tivik
Mhm.
for
Spoiler.
Rogue One.
Spoiler.
Spoilers, yeah, sorry.
No,
But again, I don't think that that's going to be the point of that arc. That's like literally going to be like
It's-
the final scene of it. It's
yeah.
like, all right, well, off to the next mission. It's like meet
It's
up
funny
with our
how,
contact.
how compressed that little bit of the timeline is. In Rogue One, it's like Rogue One leads right into like the beginning of A New Hope, which has been
Yeah.
led in, and then this is leading right into Rogue One. I think that's very funny, but that's, I don't even know. Cassian, still kind of like the least interesting character in the entire series, but that's not a knock against Cassian as much as it is just saying how strong all of these other characters are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I
that's
think part
another
of that
thing
is just
that they
because we
talked
know
about.
where he's going. So
exactly, and that's what it is. I think it's definitely not any lack on his part as much as it is just like, oh, I thought Miro was just gonna get completely torn to shreds right there. I thought we were gonna watch this woman
Yeah,
get
I
murdered.
did think for a
on
moment, I was
TV.
like, oh my gosh, she's just going to get torn
And
apart by
And
these
the show,
crowd.
it did some bad things to me because I was just like, get her. You know what I mean? It was terrible. But like the emotions were so high in that whole riot scene.
Yeah,
that I was
you
like,
were Brasso, just like, yeah, just bring him with the brick.
just get him with the brick. That was good though. That was unequivocally good. Like
Marva got the first hit in. Boom.
yeah, she did.
and it made, because Cole, you had talked about, and honestly, that is the main crux of this episode for me, because I don't want to say there's nothing to talk about, but it's after that riot begins that's when things start to get legit for me. And Cole, you mentioned that Marva probably had planned something for her funeral.
Yeah.
Or do you still think that I don't know if she planned this, but she very clearly made the speech. Like, I'd be
Yeah.
curious to know how much she actually had anticipated happening.
hmm I think that's what she wanted, but it's one of those things that all she could do is give the speech and hope it had the effects that she wanted it to have. I don't think she knew that everything was going to come to a boil exactly like it did. You know, I mean, like you said, it's such a meeting of a bunch of these threads that there's no way anyone could have known all these were happening. All these different things, like Cassian coming back, the Empire like finding out that he's coming back, and like putting the pressure on that makes it all come to a boil extremely fast.
And it's, well, what is it with this show and like fantastic, well-written monologues? We've had 3 of them now.
Because they got some
Yo.
amazing writers. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, man. They know how to write a dang speech, and it's amazing. Between like Stellan Skarsgård has several great speeches,
Yeah.
and then Kino Loy's speech in the prison, and then Marva's here. They're all just all timers. They're
And
amazing.
they're well delivered. But also,
So
those
good.
3 are all
Yeah.
well-respected and storied actors.
Yes, great actors delivering great dialogue, and it's just, man, it hits hard.
It does.
I was like, I'd wake up early and I'd fight these bastards. It's like, oh my gosh, dude.
I do love
Do
that. Oh, and then we've got the manifesto coming back.
Yeah,
Mimics Manifesto being the
like I said,
voiceover.
full circle.
It's
Full circle. It's beautiful.
oh, it's good. Mogo, the two greatest weapons in Star Wars: words and a brick.
Yeah.
Words on a brick.
Words on a brick.
Can we take a second to appreciate the fact that nobody died?
Oh, none of the main characters.
None of the
yeah.
okay, fair enough. None of the
Yeah.
main, none of but like our friends, like
the
Brasso.
spaceport guy
and
died.
he did.
And there was a few that like named people on Ferrix that died for sure.
But it's like the people that if I'm being honest, that I was really every death on Ferrix I felt though. Every death, every single person that
like I said,
died.
we spent like six or seven episodes worth of time with all these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and got to know all these people, and this really feels like a community. And then when the Empire starts mowing them down, it's like, golly.
This is it, and it felt so wrong whenever they finally opened fire because they hadn't been, and obviously it is wrong, but it was just there was nothing to me. There wasn't even anything like I got really emotional during that sequence, but it wasn't like I don't want to say it wasn't heroic, but it felt more like this is just survival. This is a riot, an uprising for survival. It didn't have that necessarily that feeling of like, wow, what a heroic fight. We're going to focus in on our heroes doing cool stuff. It's like, no,
it was down and dirty.
Named people are dying. Let's call it what it is. The Empire is just full on opening fire on civilians. Like it was
disgusting. Really similar to the prison breakout with like,
yes.
It's like we spent 3 episodes in this prison and got to know some of these people, and then as soon as the riot starts, a couple of them just die immediately.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, okay, it's that kind of show.
It is, and it's just it felt bad, but at the same time, that kid throws the bomb, and you're like, oh my god, this is so cool.
That kid, he didn't have a single line of dialogue in the episode, but man, you feel everything he's feeling.
Yeah, you do.
He was really good.
He was very good, and then his bomb goes off and cooks off those other grenades, and you're just like,
man,
oh no, things are about to get real bad.
Again, it's one of those things like, did he know there were other explosives there? Was that just happenstance?
Happenstance.
I don't know, and it doesn't really matter.
No,
but it's like, man. And it incidentally kills the other guy that was like betraying them, and like,
but see, and I felt bad for that too, because it's like, okay, yeah, he's a snitch, but at the same time, he got picked up and was being held. You know what I mean? Like it was very much.
He told him to.
Oh,
he's like, pretend like you're arresting me and get me out of here.
Oh,
like he was doing it just to save his own skin. Like he could see that things were coming to a boil. He's like, hey, I'll give you the information, but you got to get me out of here.
Oh, okay. I feel less bad now. I feel less bad now.
So yeah, you can feel bad for him
that.
because maybe he didn't deserve to be executed.
No.
But he definitely is like same thing with Tim from the first arc.
Yeah.
It's like he did some bad stuff and you don't like him, but didn't necessarily warrant death.
No, and it's because
that's
it's
just
so,
how the show works.
It's so clear how terrible the Empire is in this show that it seems like even he, who is a snitch and has changed sides and is a bad dude, like you feel bad. You feel bad for him because it's like he didn't deserve this. If the Empire wasn't here doing this, none of this would be happening. And it's just snitches do get stitches in Andor. Actually, they don't get stitches because there's nothing.
They don't live to get the stitches.
They don't live to get stitches. And that's. I don't know. I think even that says something. It's like that's an insightful commentary on our. Like, I'm not gonna assume that everything in the show is a commentary on the real world, but I think it is. It's like you can be a collaborator and they don't care. They do not care.
Yeah, and that's something that in some interviews Tony Gilroy said is like he said that this shows like it's not deliberately commenting on like present day stuff, but he's like it's all in the history. Yeah. He's like, he's a history guy. This is all like based on stuff that happens in history, and history repeats itself. It all feels so relevant because it is coming back to present day stuff, but it's really more based on historical things that have happened, riots that have broken out and wars, how wars have started and stuff. It's like, yeah. That's how it happens.
Which is unsettling in its own right. It's just the Empire has just never felt more evil to me even at like because Palpatine is kind of cartoon villain sometimes, like in a good way. Like I love
Yeah.
Palpatine, but
Yeah,
it's
and that's
so
fine.
it's so exactly it's so big picture. This was so down to earth and just like I said, disgusting. Like this was bad. It was hard to watch at places. And thank God for like the shining lights of like, you know, Bix gets out, Brasso gets out, the kid gets out, like they're all safe.
Brasso's like become one of the heroes, man.
He
Like,
is.
he's like a total like good guy the entire time. Like he's, you know, he's one of
Love
Andor's like
him.
true real friends.
Yeah.
And even the very first interaction with him, like, you know, giving the getting like the cover story right, so that in case someone asks, it's like, hey, I was here the whole time, right? And he's willing to do it. And then he's taking care of Marva while Cassian's gone. And then he's like being super nice to B2 after Marva dies. And then here he's just like leading the fight. He's braiding people with a brick. And it's
that
amazing.
was so good. That was so good. I cheered when he
Just
used the
like
brick.
leans back and
And I kept, because he was being so heroic, I kept being afraid. I'm like, all of these characters.
yeah, you're just afraid. You're like, you could die. You could die.
You could die.
So
Get
easily.
away. You could die.
So easily.
But they get out, and so that was reassuring. Cassian obviously we knew was gonna get out. Everything. But Cassian does tell them to climb at the end.
Dude, there's so much like echoing of like of lines and stuff. That's the symmetry and like call forwards to Rogue One. Like
Yeah.
whenever Dedra's like crawling through the crowd, it looks just like Krennic after he gets shot, looking up at the Death Star, about to kill him. It's like, oh man,
Even that
it's
was
so cool.
like I said, I was hoping they'd get her, right? But at the same time, it was like it was harrowing. Like I was elevated watching it because I'm like, this is terrifying. What would I do in this situation?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, of all the things, she was like not wanting a riot. She didn't want just, you know, start shooting people and stuff. She was really just trying to catch Cassian.
True.
And she was very adamant, like, hey, don't shoot people.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's true.
I don't want that. That's not, you know, excusing her or anything. She's definitely still a terrible person.
Yes.
But she didn't want any of that to happen. And then whenever the one guy loses it, it's like open fire. It's like, oh, well, you know, reap what you sow.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't. That dude was bad. I hated that guy.
Oh yeah, I think it's Captain Tigo. I think.
Tigo.
is
Yeah, I
that
think
guy's
that was
name.
his name. Yeah.
Oh
creep.
man. Yeah, he's like,
That's-
oh, I just want to kill these guys.
That is bad.
And he's the one that hung the kid's dad.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can if you are watching the stream, you can hear the or the video. You could hear the outro. Apologies. But yeah, no, the whole thing is bad. I also definitely thought, Mogo, that Serial Karn was going to ruin everything.
It turns out he kind
Oh.
of saved somebody, you know?
Yikes.
And I'm
but
still like,
is
just-
she saved though?
it was so gross when she's
well,
like,
she
I
was
should say
saved
thank
from
you.
the riot, but she might be into a worse fate, you know?
Yes.
It was so gross when she's like, I should say thank you, and he goes, you don't have to. I'm like, oh,
I love you, I know.
I
Oh,
hate this guy. I
it's
hate
so
this
gross.
guy because it does. It went from him being like obsessed with order, obsessed with, you know, this weird, you know, he's being just kind of a bootlicker, basically, like the worst kind of just like fascist sympathizer, to like, oh, I think it could potentially be wrapped up in these terrible like pseudo romantic feelings now for her.
Yeah.
And
He's latched onto her because he
really-
sees like a kindred spirit and like, you know, someone that's also believes the same thing he does but has had more success. And he's latched onto that, and it's like,
He's
oh,
completely unhinged.
And I think that maybe
so
he'll
nasty.
the guy that Cinta kills,
Yeah.
that she nice the guy. I think maybe because he was part of Dedra's staff, so
Oh,
I
was
wonder
he?
if maybe Cyril will be his replacement.
Oh,
I hate
yikes.
that.
Yeah, I hate that, but it also makes a lot of sense.
It does. I think Cinta has some very quietly interesting moments to me, because like
Yeah.
obviously Vel and Cinta are an item. We know that.
Mhm.
Cinta did not Cinta is like all in on the rebellion though, very clearly.
Yeah.
Vel's there, but Cinta's like, okay, we've got to get this cleaned up. Like she's looking out the window right away, like even though she's gone to get Vel, and
Mhm.
It seemed like she was supposed to like pick Mel up at like the spaceport or something and didn't because she was following the ISB guy.
yeah,
Mhm.
So yeah.
it was nice though. Whenever I got very worried whenever the ISB dude was like, "Hey, you, what are you doing here?" And I'm like, and then she just stabs him. I'm like, "Oh, okay, problem solved."
She's like, I'm Rook and stab.
Yeah. That was very funny. Sorry, dropped an Allen wrench. I need to stop fiddling with things while I podcast. But no, she was, I think, more of an understated presence, but still definitely important. Vel is very clearly hurt by the way she's acting, which makes me wonder kind of where Vel's going to go. Cinta, I feel like, has kind of made her decision. She is all in,
Yeah.
rebel agent.
Cinta's like, she's like Saw Gerrera, like hardcore.
Exactly.
And Vel is like, she's in for it, but also I think she's like, she doesn't know how far she's willing to go. And
Right.
maybe he's going to be disillusioned by the direction that the others are going.
Which
But
could be
it's hard,
bad.
so hard to say.
Could
Like, I
be.
don't think she like betray them, but I think she might just be out, at some
Uh-huh.
point.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't know. Cinta was very good. Whenever she's like, blood, Val's like, "That's blood. You're bleeding," and she goes, "It's not mine." I'm like,
Hey.
so yeah,
I don't mind that. It's just ISB blood.
it's fine.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's subhuman. This guy's scum. But yeah, that riot scene was
B2 is our hero. I love B2 so
he
much.
is. I was afraid.
Pichu, what a
I was very
cutie.
afraid. I was very afraid
and
for him.
when the Imperial guy flips him over, like that's the moment the riot kicks off. It's like, don't mess with our droid. And then the one guy, the spaceport, the guy that gives them the ship is like pulling B2 out with a rope. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, we got to get you out of here, buddy. I'm like, oh, my hero.
It was that just there were so many little moments during that whole sequence that were great. I think Brasso headbutting the stormtrooper, and I'm just like, oh my god. Like,
This guy's a tank.
And didn't he like successfully knock out the guy?
yes, the guy was on the ground.
Wild. Love
This
him.
dude is a tank. He's
Yeah.
huge. I wouldn't want to be on
When
the
they
wrong
even
side
call
of
him, the
that.
Imperials called him the big guy.
The big guy.
He's good.
Ugh.
I definitely hope they get out. I think it's possible they don't. But the end felt a little too hopeful for me for them to just completely rip out the rug and take out all of them at once.
Yeah, I think they'll get away like long term. Who knows?
Sure.
But I think that
I hope
situation they're
so.
out of. I think.
Well,
'Cause I
just
don't think the
because-
Empire was prepared to like blockade the planet or something.
No. There's an Imperial garrison on Ferrix, but it feels like that is the extent of it.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel like there is, heavy. There's no like installation or anything from what I can tell.
No.
Like they've set up a base in this hotel. It's not like they have a big
Now
complex. With
I think
anti-air
if we
and stuff.
return to Ferrix at some point, it's not going to be good.
No, it's
No.
terrible. No,
The
it's very
crackdown
bad.
will be so bad. It's like, oh no, I dread it honestly.
I do too, because I think we will see Ferrix again. I don't know why we wouldn't, especially since the show theme, like Luthen's thing, is how it needs to be worse before it gets better. And
Well,
like,
and that's the thing. I think having him seeing all on the ground, seeing all of it. I think that's the point. Is that he's like, this is what I wanted, and he's having to witness some of it. Like, and he's not normally there on the ground witnessing it.
no,
True.
no,
You
it's
know,
all
he's
big
usually
picture
in the
for him.
background. Like, he's the one. But that was the whole thing with Aldani. He's like, we want to push the Empire to to crack down harder, which will make people rise up, and that's exactly what he's witnessing. Like, he
And he was-
directly caused all of this stuff happening.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And he's on the ground seeing it, and he's like I think he's I don't think he's reevaluating, but he's like, man, yeah, and he's like proud, but also like, man, people are gonna die.
People are
It's gonna be
dying.
bad.
yeah.
it's-
And he didn't mean to be there. He was trying to be in
Yeah, exactly.
the hotel,
This thing, he
away
didn't-
from it.
He didn't think. I don't think he had any idea the riot and stuff was gonna break out. Like that was
Yeah.
all. It's all like incidental. He didn't cause the event directly, but he's the one that pushed over the domino at the start of
Mhm.
the season.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, suddenly it's all just come crashing down. He's like, oh my gosh, I nearly, what have I done? It's
Ooh,
beautiful,
bad
but oh
things.
no.
Yeah, I think that's what's, I think his speech from a couple episodes ago, he's not a bad dude. He just has to suppress his morality, you know? So I imagine it is hard for him, and he looks troubled through some of it. Like, he does not look like a happy dude through this.
But like hearing Marva's speech, you can tell it's like getting to him. He's like, yeah, like this is exactly.
He likes that. He likes that speech.
And I think he's also like, man, this Andor kid, he came from good people, you know?
He came from good people.
And so whenever he's there at the end, he's like, oh no. Oh, nice. Yeah, he's in. Yeah.
We didn't even talk about the flashback scene with Cassian and Clem cleaning CPU coolers.
Oh.
Yes.
They're definitely just like CPU
Just like
heat sinks.
computer parts. It's like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Not everyone's going to know that, but I was like, heat sinks.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Whatever. It's cool.
It is. It
But
was.
Yeah, I like Clem hasn't had like a lot of screen time or anything, but I think they've characterized him really well. For the little bit we've gotten, it's like, it's always hard hitting stuff.
That's the strength of the show. Like,
it's all very tender.
Yeah, and that's it. And I'm pretty sure the blaster he has is Clem's blaster.
Yeah.
That Briar pistol.
Yep. I was reading, I think it was Han Solo and Chewbacca. One of the characters in that has a very clearly a Briar pistol, which of course
nice.
Makes me wonder. It's like, well, okay, Kyle Katarn's was supposed to be like a sawn-off shotgun, basically. Why do other people have this? Have this exact same blaster? Whatever, it's fine. I'm not gonna worry about it.
It was a common modification.
Sure. It was a common modification, but well, I guess like someone might see one and be like, oh, "That's a good idea. I've got one of those sitting around. I'd love to be able to just
catch on,
pop somebody with a handheld rifle." Yeah, we haven't even talked about Mon Mothma and how just absolutely
we have not
gross everything that's happening with her is. I just
feel so bad.
I do too.
She introduced what's his name's kid. How did Lita feel about that?
I don't know.
She seemed like she was okay with it.
She seemed into it, and it scared me.
Is that in the last episode we see that she is very into like into like traditional Chandrilan stuff. So the whole like arranged marriage thing is probably right up her alley.
Yeah, I think she likes it.
It's like, oh, and that almost makes it harder for Mon Mothma. She's like, this is exactly what she would want.
Yeah,
and I don't want that for her because that's what I went through. And look at what my marriage is like. But she also throws Perrin under the bus a little bit.
Yeah.
In the first scene with her.
It was so good. It was so bad and so
She's
good.
Like deliberately like planting false info with the ISB. And also probably just like covering her tracks, like the ISB like sees they may even mentioned that, you know, there's some weird banking stuff going on with her, and they're like, it's like, oh, we can throw that, lie. we can account that for, you know, for he's got some gambling debts he's paying off.
Yep.
And
that was smooth.
Not think about rebellion stuff at all. And Skolden, the same thing. Skolden's like, oh, she's paying off gambling debts. It's not no reason to suspect anything else.
Clever and horrible.
I know we were basically like meant to not trust this driver from day one.
Yeah.
I was not shocked, but also disgusted. I'm just like, dude, you're terrible. How could you? Come on.
Reporting directly to Blevin.
Yeah, terrible dude.
And we also had the Krieger's sacrifice.
As
like
off screen.
Off screen. Well, but on screen, literally. ISB literally just looking at like
on
a video game
monitor.
board of like, oh, yep, they all died. We're counting the bodies. It's like, oh my gosh.
Oh, it's messed up. And then, you know, like, but even then, Deidre's like, yeah, why? I wish I had been informed. Like, this is terrible. Like, we don't get.
Why
any
did you
info.
kill all of them? We don't get to interrogate anybody.
Yeah.
Dr. Gorst needs more subjects.
And then
nasty.
And then, you know, Partagaz is just like, this was about wiping the taste of Aldani from the Emperor's mouth. I'm like, oh, don't talk about the Emperor's mouth.
Tasting things.
Who was it? Someone in our Discord said that for sure, I think. And I'm just like, so I'm just stealing that joke, but yeah, not good. But so is Mon Mothma just kind of getting the easy out with her daughter then? Is this just kind of like she doesn't have to do anything bad, she just has to live with the knowledge that she has exploited her daughter in this way and her, you know, kind of limited worldview?
I think so too.
I think she just has to live with the pain of knowing what she did, and you know, that's going to be the end of it. You know, for now, you know, we know long term she'll end up, you know, going full rebel and, you know,
yeah, presumably having no contact with
after
her
the Gorman
family at all.
massacre.
Yeah,
Which I think might be something we witness in season 2.
that'd be cool.
Could be.
Like maybe
Well-
that'll be one of the missions that the Andor and his crew are on.
Yeah, Dakota caught that I said a massacre would be cool.
Yes, yes, I did. I was about to
Oh,
point
we're
it out
really into
for everyone
massacres
who
here.
didn't.
Yeah, no, not cool, but you know, something that dates back to, you know, West End days. Like that'd be fun to see that on the screen.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look
Fun
at
to see
the.
a massacre.
Shut up. That's not what I meant. Yeah, Mon Mothma and Perrin obviously are not long for this world. She won't even feel too much. So do we know that their marriage was arranged, or is that just the implication that?
I think they mentioned it specifically at one point.
Okay, so she's probably not going to have any
I
lost
couldn't.
love for
I
him.
remembered them
getting out of
mentioning
it.
it. I couldn't remember if they mentioned that it was arranged or that it wasn't arranged.
Well, I think they
but
said
know
they've
that
been married since
specified.
they were like 15 or something. So
Oh, I think you're right.
Well, but yeah, I mean, I guess Mon Mothma does also, like Mogo says, it's like her daughter is away from her. If her daughter goes back to Chandrilla, then presumably she could be safer
That's
than she
a
would be
good point.
at the. So
And
I mean,
I feel like that's the one thing that's holding her and Perrin together is that, you know, they're raising their daughter, and if she's gone out of the picture, you know,
well, that's what I mean. Maybe she doesn't even leave Perrin because or ditch him because of anything specific. She's just like, I'm so tired of you. Get out
So
of here.
dumb.
Get out
Maybe
of
she
here.
uses the gambling as her like official
It's her
reason
excuse.
for that. Also, like this gambling thing, it's gonna work out a few different ways.
Well, and it's hard too because I legitimately couldn't even tell. Like I was like, I'm like, is he gambling there? I don't know. I don't necessarily think he is, but he's not being super convincing that he's not.
yeah, he's
I
bad at like, you know, being sincere.
Yeah.
That she was just making it up, and then when he was responding to it, I was like, "Oh,
This exactly
He is-
like
he
this
is
is
gambling.
this is an actual thing
Got
that's happening.
a Canto Bite mention.
Right.
Yep.
we did. So yeah, I don't know. Mon Mothma was very much a minor presence here. I imagine going forward, she will be a greater presence even than she is right now, since season 2 is where their plots are supposed to cross over.
Yeah, she's like a
more.
Luthen level character in that, you know, she's not in every episode and often doesn't have like a ton of screen time, but it's always impactful.
Always
Yeah.
impactful. And I think again, it's like that's a case of like Cassian's endpoint and knowing where it ends up makes him a little less interesting to me. But for some reason, it doesn't affect me for Mon Mothma, and maybe that's the point.
Yeah.
The point of that is just that we can assume less about her involvement, maybe, because it's not. It's less like Cassian's like, oh, Cassian obviously goes on rebel missions and destroys stuff, whereas Mon Mothma has this kind of political intrigue aspect, and she's like hiding with like white collar crimes and stuff, which is not more interesting, but is interesting in a different way. And she's just-
differently interesting."
Yes, differently interesting. So I'm definitely excited to see more of her. Not happy that I have to wait 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
Big bummer.
Big bummer, but
sad.
also like,
Big sad.
you know, and it's one of those things that the interview Tony Gilroy gave about, you know, starting production. It's like, yeah, you know, we literally started filming. I think they started filming Monday, like last Monday. So they've been filming for like a week ish, and they're gonna be filming like through next summer. And he's like, post production is the only place you can accelerate things happening, and that just costs more money. So if somebody wants to pump a ton of money into this, we could get it out sooner, but that's probably not going to happen.
That's probably not going to happen. Which
So
is,
we're looking at this time next year, or
I don't
2
know.
years from now. So it's like, oh, okay.
I would imagine everyone that's listening to this is watching Andor, but like, I
If
think
you're not, what the heck?
what, yeah, like why are you here? But I think I think this one could use a little bit of a boost. It's hard though, because I haven't talked to anybody who's not watching it, but I see all this talk about people not watching it. And I'm like, are people actually not watching it, or is this one of those things that's just kind of BS, you know, that is like the
Yeah.
fans have just made up? I don't know. Mo, gonna answer your question. We know that Mon Mothma becomes like the chief of state of the New Republic. For a
I'm
time.
pretty sure, as far as we know, she's still alive even in the sequel trilogy.
Do we?
Because I'm pretty sure that she gets mentioned as being alive still in Bloodline.
That's what I was thinking too, but I
think
can't remember
Leia
it
mentions like
specifically.
she's like retired in something or another, but I don't think there's anything confirming her dying at any point.
No, I haven't seen that. In Legends, I know she dies, but even that's
And
significantly
it's
later.
one of those things. I think I saw somebody talking about it somewhere, but like the actress that played her originally is still alive.
Yeah,
I'm like, y'all could have
mentioned
brought
it.
her into the sequel trilogy.
I
That would have been
mentioned
so
it.
cool.
I mentioned it
So
maybe
cool.
last week or something. I was surprised that she
I was like, oh, that would have been awesome to have,
Yeah.
even if it was like just like like a Wedge style cameo,
Yeah.
right.
just like as a one thing. Is oh, that's cool. But
Even though
no, even if it was like on Hosnian Prime getting obliterated or
Oh,
something.
I wouldn't have liked that.
No,
I mean,
wouldn't have
you wouldn't
either.
like it, but also would have been like, oh, that's cool. They got her back. That's fun. But it's fun in a morbid way.
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how.
Okay,
late
in
Mon Mothma.
Nathan's saying in Bloodline it says she's been sick, so maybe she's not alive yet, still in sequel trilogy.
Oh,
But
okay.
that era, at least, she's still alive.
Well, because isn't she sick in Legends too? Isn't it? But doesn't she get better in Legends and then dies later?
so.
I think she
Doesn't she
That's
get
so rough.
doesn't she get like poisoned in Jedi Academy?
Yeah.
Didn't what's his name splash the stuff in her face that nearly kills her?
Oh yeah. I remember this. Right. So
Yes, Mogo. Yes, I know. That's what it would have been.
she
Star
would
Killer
have just
base
been
killing her
getting
would have been out.
yeah, vaporized by Star
We
Killer
don't care
Base.
about politics. Boom.
Thanks, JJ. It looks like Mon Mothma, yeah, just is kind of going in like Bloodline is like the latest depiction we have of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Like I said, as far as we know, she's still kicking.
So
That's good.
I don't know. Well, it's hard too because I feel like, especially in Return of the Jedi, she certainly doesn't look that old right now. And Return of the Jedi, her age is very. It's not really
She looks
easy.
way more haggard.
She, like she's been
Yeah,
through a lot. Doesn't necessarily.
To me, it's one of those
mean
things like
anything.
being president for 4 years. Look what it does to you. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I feel like that's what happened to her.
So, I don't know. I mean, thankfully we know she gets out of here. I actually haven't watched Return of the Jedi since we started seeing more of Mon Mothma, but I did obtain a Return of the Jedi Grindhouse the other day version.
Nice.
So I'll be checking that out this week for sure. Also because I'm sick. Because I talked to Austin about this in a Patreon episode that is yet to be released, but is in the works, I promise. It is recorded. I just have to edit it. We talked about home releases, and I got to look at them like, has anybody ripped their VHSs? Can I find like a CBS Fox VHS rip? Turns out you can.
I'm about to say,
wow.
I'd be amazed if it wasn't.
It is out there, and it is just, if you are like, Andor does not give a rip about your nostalgia, does not care. Is not here for heroics.
It cares about giving you new nostalgia to care about.
Sure, but if you are looking for the nostalgia hit, go look up those VHS rips because it is something else. The washed out colors, the the sound, all of it. Just like I was 5
Well,
again.
there is the one nostalgia hit after the credits.
Nostalgia,
get
is that
to
the word?
see-
Is that the word you would use? We didn't
Goes back to the very beginning, man.
we didn't even talk about that, but it was I knew they were making parts for the Death Star. I knew it. I knew
We
it.
did call it.
I mean, it's the obvious thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the obvious thing. It
It's-
makes the most sense.
It's
And-
definitely
but,
not.
literally seeing the little puzzle pieces being put together by droids is pretty satisfying.
Right.
Yep.
In the shot, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Rogue One shot of the Death Star, and I love it so much.
It was it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. Just overall, what a fantastic season of TV. Like like Star Wars notwithstanding, it is just really
Yeah, it's just
really
good
good TV.
It's great.
Very good. up there. I would honestly put it up there with the other stuff that they're like stuff that I've watched and really liked. Breaking Bad, Dexter. It's like I got a lot of the same feelings from this show, obviously to a lesser extent because Breaking Bad and Dexter are willing to go places that a Star Wars TV show won't / can't.
And also have multiple seasons.
Right.
Content.
This is just one. This is
one season, and it's like there's not a bad episode here.
Nope.
It's all good. It's all good.
I would have liked to see what was going on with Grogu, but
hey,
shut up.
There's
What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? No.
February, my dude. February.
Just wait. Just wait. Grogu could stay in his own little lane.
we could see him in Bad Batch in January.
Keep him in his pram.
I don't want him in Bad Batch either.
You don't want to see a little animated Grogu.
I'm not saying I don't want to see that. I'm just saying that, like, I hate the fact that I want everyone to stay in their own freaking lane. Makes me out to be the Grogu. People. There's a rumor that I want him to die.
You have said that.
Is it a rumor? I didn't know it was a rumor.
Yeah.
You thought it was confirmed fact. No, I don't want him to die. I just think that could have been a good.
It would be better if he wasn't alive.
I simply think it would be better if he wasn't around. Man, if the Bad Batch go to Ferrix, that's what I hate. That's what I hate is that like the Andor team has done this great job of creating its own thing that ties in to other stuff, and now I'm afraid that like something that other teams are going to come in and like do stuff to like they're like, oh, we've got to it's not connected enough, we've got to connect it.
It's gonna retroactively be connected to everything.
That's probably not going to happen. I definitely do have more faith in Lucasfilm than that. Because Ferrix, by all accounts, is an unimportant planet. It's not important, and I think that's
keep it that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at Tatooine. That was supposed to be the planet in the middle of nowhere, and is now, as much as I love seeing it, has become the center of Star Wars, basically. So
there's an irony in that.
There is. I don't think the Bad Batch will save Grogu, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? Doesn't it?
I mean, I'm not saying it. It could happen. Like, we don't know what's going on with Grogu from being taken from the temple in Order 66.
Yep.
And showing up with that group of bounty hunters or whatever they were that Mando rescues them from.
Yeah.
We don't know the story there. So I feel like there's potential that could happen, I guess.
I mean, I feel like that should be its own story, though. I feel like it should be its own story. I'm okay with getting that story.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't think the Bad Batch has to tie into it. I think the Bad Batch could just be doing.
I could see, like, maybe what I could see happening is like maybe they run across another Jedi that's on the run and like help them out for a couple of episodes, and they've got some kind of package that they're
Sure.
holding on to.
Sure.
And at the end of it, like when they escape, we see him like peek into it, and you see Grogu.
Okay, sure.
And like they unintentionally, unknowingly helped get this guy away from him, whatever.
Yeah, and it's because, I mean, Kenobi establishes that there is like a Jedi, for lack of a better term, like underground railroad, right? Like that's happening. So, Mogo, it is bold of me to assume that Filoni cares about what makes sense. I know, but I want to believe. Like I still.
Hopefully, he's been too busy with the Ahsoka show to mess with Bad Batch.
Just not even care about it. That show, I mean, honestly, as time goes on, I kind of get more and more hyped for that show. I'm just thinking about it, and I think it's just because I think it's just because I want more Star Wars TV. Like I think that like Andor has really kind of renewed. I don't want to say renewed my faith because I didn't lose any faith, but I feel like Andor has shown me the highs.
It proved that there's still ways to go. Like you can still do better and more interesting things.
Yes. It showed me what it can be. So I feel like there's like, it's less of a, well, the Mandalorian's really good, and I obviously really love that show. Doesn't quite reach the highs of the movies for me. Whereas Andor comes a lot closer. So it's like, okay, it's not a TV problem. It is just show to show kind of thing. Mogo types Luthen Rail Avaros as a joke. but it does make me wonder, what is it that happens multiple times, that like someone's last name will be another character's first name. That's happened in Star Wars for a long time. And I'm just like, are there just certain combinations of syllables that sound very Star Wars and people independently stumble upon them and is like, cool.
Probably.
Yeah.
Honestly. I think that probably is what it is. But you would not believe the amount of people on the internet that believe that Luthen is secretly a Jedi.
Why?
They're like, oh, he's a Jedi that's like rejected the Jedi code, and that's why he's talking about in his speech. And then they see him with his like walking stick thing up close, like, oh, that's a lightsaber. Like, and his ship has lightsabers on it, and he's got the kyber crystal, and I see it so much, and I'm like, I'm not saying it's impossible,
No,
but I feel like you people aren't watching the same show I'm watching if you think that's really gonna happen.
Lyra Urso also has a kyber crystal, not a Jedi. Jyn Urso, not a Jedi, in possession of a kyber crystal.
And I still think that the important part about the kyber crystal is not that it's a kyber crystal, but it's a Kuwati signet.
Exactly.
Like, that is really fascinating to me, and I wonder if that's going to matter in his like backstory in some way. But everyone's like, no, it's a kyber, it's a Jedi. It's like, that's not the only thing they're used for, probably, you know?
Right. And that's that's just kind of where I come down. It's like, even if you're not a Jedi, the Jedi have been revered in the galaxy, especially like within the core worlds, right? Like Kuwat, I think, is a mid-rim planet, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong. But anyway, it's close enough to the center of the galaxy that they would probably have a large contingent of people that revere the Jedi. And if you've got people higher up that revere the Jedi, a kyber crystal, they're going to know that's what that's for. And it's like, this is why this is important to our family. For, you know, because
and they mentioned it's a specific type of kyber, sky kyber.
Yeah, sure.
Because even Skeen calls it out as sky kyber specifically. So I'm like, I wonder if that's a different thing.
Maybe.
You know,
Kinda
like it's a specific thing. I don't know.
Like fool's gold versus gold, where it's not even a kyber crystal.
Yeah.
It's not, but it looks similar, so that's what they call it.
The Death Star also has kyber crystals and is not a Jedi.
It is not a Jedi.
It is a giant lightsaber, though, as we've been told.
It is a giant lightsaber.
That discussion popped up in the Discord, and I was like, Tom started going off about it, and I'm like, this is going to be deleted and moved to Maw Installation in a matter of seconds. Maw Installation is our like in-universe serious discussion channel, and I was just like, this is going to be in Maw Installation in like 5 minutes, and sure enough, that's where it got moved to.
Yep. Because he had more to say about it.
Yeah, and it's like it's fun to see all that discussion happening, but yeah, I don't know.
And you can too for as little as $1 a month.
Thank you, Dakota. Patreon.com/Skyhoppers Podcast. Come hang out. Shout outs to Nathan Roberts, our new patron. Sorry, I don't know if I should have said your last name. That's what it says on YouTube, I'm going to assume, and it's what it said on Twitter. I'm going to assume you're not too protective of your full name, but if you are, let me know, and I'll edit that out. But anyway, new patron. Happy to see him hanging out in the chat, as everyone else, of course. But I don't know. I'm going to be thinking about Andor for a long time.
I need to rewatch that last episode, especially.
Yeah, especially, like I said, as soon as they start playing the music, it's just glorious. Yeah, I was just mesmerized watching it all happen. Oh my gosh!
I saw a really interesting take on Reddit, which I know feels like an oxymoron, but it was true. Someone mentioned that they were talking about like how Andor does not lend itself to immediate rewatch. Like Mandalorian, I can put that on because it's kind of like popcorn TV in a lot of ways, where it's just like you can put that on and there's a lot of meat there. Like it's still very interesting and there's a lot to unpack. I'm not trying to belittle that show, but it's got that kind of Star Wars feel to it, so it's fun and in a lot of ways benefits from a repeat viewing. Whereas Andor is more of Andor, everything is set up so perfectly. The first time through, you know what it's about. You catch most of what's important. So yeah, going back and rewatching One Way Out because it has a great sequence makes perfect sense. Going back and watching a random episode makes a little less sense, like at this point, because it's all so recent and you just kind of, it's all such a cohesive story. It's weird to just like pick one episode out. And I kind of agree with that. Whereas like I have not rewatched Andor at all. It's so good. I might try to get Allison in on it. It was because I just don't
I
want to.
was
I don't want to inundate her
thinking the
with too
same
much.
thing.
I don't want to inundate her with too much Star Wars, especially because we have other shows that we're watching.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to push this one too hard. If she wants to watch it, then by all means, we'll watch it together. But now it's like, oh, it's just good TV though. I think you should watch it just because it's good. So I'd rewatch it then for sure. But it's a different beast, I think, than the other Star Wars TV that we've seen before. But yeah, like exactly, like Nathan is saying that every episode is so fresh in his mind. I agree with that. But also the first 3 episodes, not really knowing the tone of the show and seeing now, I would also like to go back and watch those first 3 episodes again.
And knowing that they're building all the stuff on Ferrix to explode it at the end makes so much sense.
Yeah. And just, I mean, think just all the stuff with Karn at the beginning where it's just like, okay, you're kind of respectable. I kind of see what you're doing. He goes from like weirdly likable kind of guy to weird pervert at the end of the show. And at the end of the season, and I'm just like,
and it's funny because I still kind of think he could swing either way long term.
I know. It's so
like, which is so strange, like you said, because of how far he's gone. But I'm still like, I still don't know if you really realize like how bad the Empire is, and like maybe being a part of it, it might change him.
That's what I mean. If he's got a crush on Miro, and that is part of what's coloring his thing here, I thought he might die. I thought he was going to throw himself on a grenade in this episode. There was
I kind of thought that too. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to literally like save her life.
But
is she even going to know or care? I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say like I think that could be interesting in and of itself. Kind of like how they kill the collaborators because they're like nothing to them. I think that could be interesting itself. It's like he is a diehard for the cause. Like he is like, I am so for the Empire. I need to catch Cassian because he ruined my life. And if you jump on a
seeing that like him and Cassian have like such perfect parallel story arcs over the season, where at the beginning they're both just kind of living life, like doing their thing, and then this one incident sends them both spiraling. And now they've come full circle, and Andor is full rebellion, and he is full Empire.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, where do we go from here? I don't know.
I don't either. I do know, though, if you're not wearing Katarn armor and you jump on a grenade, there's probably not going to be too much left to identify. So,
no,
Miro would not have known it was him. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm about to say, like, she would have been like, looked at the bodies, like, can't see what his face is like. Huh, wonder who that was.
Which would have been satisfying in its own right.
It would have been
Eckhart's Ladder.
Satisfying.
He pointed out something that the other guy, Sergeant Mosk, like pointed out that it seemed like he was kind of having like a moment of reflection, like whenever during Marva's speech, he was kind of like looking around like, I don't know about all this, and then at the very, very end, he's just on the ground drinking.
Yeah.
It's like, did he kind of have like a moment there?
He seems like he had a moment, and
Cyril just left him. It's like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
He doesn't care.
Yeah,
it's not
just a means to an end.
Yeah,
but I do love the moment of them like trading hats at the beginning. It's such like a small, like kind of nonsense moment, but it's really kind of endearing.
I didn't fully understand what was that about.
I think it's like one of those things you kind of have to just infer that maybe they were like they would like tried each other's hats on, or like he's like, hey, this one looks better on you, or I don't know. It's one of those things I think you kind of just have to infer that it's just like, a moment showing that they're they're in it together for whatever reason.
No, I guess that makes sense. And then
it's endearing.
They're in it together.
That's all I took for him.
They're in it together until Karn gets what he wants, and then it's like just leaving him there to drown his misery in whatever nasty rot gut he's drinking there on the ground in an alley in Ferrix. I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy to me that we've spent so long talking about this show and could still keep going.
Yep.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna hang on to this one for a long time. This was such a good season of series, show, TV. The word I'm looking for.
I feel like it's already enhanced Rogue One a lot. Yep. And just like I said, it's got all these like smart like writing callbacks, call forwards, whatever you want to call them. The repeating climb as like a thing that's happened repeatedly in Cassian's life is really fascinating.
Yeah.
And the nobody's listening, and then him at the very end asking Jen is like, "Do you think anyone was listening?"
Yeah.
There's so many good moments. They're like, "Oh, that adds weight in such a good way that doesn't feel forced."
Okay.
So good.
Mogo says cereal only has eyes for specific pair of boots to lick, and I think that's as
He's
good
got
a
a
place as
taste for
any
specific boots.
to end
Ew.
this. That's disgusting. Well, I guess I did call him a weird pervert. Anyway,
He is.
I think now it is. I think that's as good a place as any to call this one for the day, unless either of you have anything major
Agreed.
to call out. Because I mean, just so the show is just so good. If you haven't watched it for some reason, what are you doing? Like, please go watch it.
It's fun going back to Scarif. Yeah, just in orbit.
Did we know the Death Star was built over Scarif?
I think it had been confirmed at some point, like in a source book or a visual dictionary, that it was moved from Geonosis to Scarif.
Because I know the Geonosis. I would imagine too. It looks like the Death Star is mostly complete aside from the super laser. So it makes sense to me.
There's a few. You can see like a few sections of like the outer hull.
Sure.
Seem like they're not quite on yet, but largely the superstructure is done. And then in Rogue One, we see the dish finally being fully inserted.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we didn't learn about that move in Rebels, I think we learned about it in Catalyst.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things I feel like they've, at different points it's been mentioned it being constructed in different places, and we've, had different source material like tie all that together.
Yeah, I think canon has done a much better job of Legends at that. Just you've got the Death Star prototype, the Maw, just all kinds of stuff going on in Legends with the Death Star. The plans were kept in 15 different places, all simultaneously. But anyway, Cole, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm at Mando Wraith on all the relevant social media platforms for as long as they exist. And I'm on Abro Skywalkers, where we're going to be finishing up talking about Darth Bane tomorrow, Lord willing.
Yes. Darth Bane. Dakota,
Yay.
what about you?
I am on Instagram at Deviation of the Endless, and the end.
Cool. This podcast exists on Twitter, SW Skyhoppers. You can email us, skyhopperspodcast@gmail.com. If you do, please CC George Lucas at gmail.com. And patreon.com/skyhopperspodcast. Come hang out in our chat. Give us good and bad ideas to parrot on the episode. Live streams, after hours, all that good stuff. We've been talking a lot about Pokemon recently and gave some book recommendations. Non-Star Wars book recommendations, I guess, is the important operator there in our after hours this week. But anyway, I think that's everything. So, if nobody has anything else to add, this is the Skyhoppers Podcast, signing off. Cool.
Nice.
Very good.
Alrighty.
We did it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of editing to do today. Patrons who are here, I do apologize for being a little less than, I feel like a little less than, what's the word I'm looking for? Punctual with editing recently. It's editing on Sunday, recording on Sunday morning. I'm like, I've got so much time to edit. And then, but it's like Tuesday rolls around. I'm like, oh shit, I haven't edited the podcast. Yeah, I don't know, but I can't hang out because I didn't have a heart out, but I do have an out. Being the same friend who gave me my last heart out. That sounds weird.
Yeah, it does. It's dirty.
I'm gonna meet him. We're gonna get lunch. We're gonna play Magic, and I'm gonna come home with a server.
Nice.
It won't be functional because I'm gonna need to get like storage for it and everything. But who knows? Maybe new week. Hey, Cyber Monday's tomorrow. I'm going back.
Indeed.
I'm going back to work tomorrow, so maybe I'll have to depression buy something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's been a busy week off. I'm looking forward to having the week of Christmas off. They just decided to close the office again between Christmas and New Year's because they're like,
no one cares.
What work are you
I
doing?
always take that off because the library is open, but no one is there.
No one's in there. Yeah, it's it sucks to drive all the for you like, you know, 2 counties over, and it's like, why am I here? There's nobody in here. But yeah, anyway, thanks Mogo, thanks Nathan, thanks Austin. I don't know if you stuck around, but thanks everyone for hanging out. It's always so much more fun whenever we've got patrons hanging out in the chat here. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take the stream down. So goodbye, everyone.
Bye.